Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the heart-stopping drama of Los Angeles' most elite fashion dynasties. Today brings a chilling turn of events that no one could have anticipated, a dark storm that threatens to forever alter the landscape of our beloved families. Let's explore the shadows of the Cliff House. The Pacific Ocean roared with an uncharacteristic ferocity as Dr. John Finnegan navigated the winding coastal roads toward the Cliff House. The evening was draped in a suffocating gloom, a heavy marine layer that seemed to mirror the suffocating tension that had recently gripped Forrester Creations. For weeks, Finn had watched his wife, Steffy Forrester Finnegan, navigate a treacherous corporate battlefield. The relentless war over the hope for the future line, the audacious and ultimately failed hostile takeover attempt by Brooke Logan, and the bitter, deeply personal confrontations had taken a visible toll on Steffy. Finn, ever the devoted and grounding force in her life, had meticulously planned a romantic, candlelit dinner to soothe her frayed nerves. He envisioned a quiet sanctuary where the toxic echoes of the fashion empire could not reach them, a sanctuary where they could simply be a husband and a wife, insulated from the Logan and Forrester crossfire. However, the sanctuary he expected was violently shattered the moment he turned his key in the lock. The heavy wooden door swung open to reveal an eerie, unsettling silence that immediately made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The romantic ambience he had arranged earlier that morning, the carefully selected wine, the unlit candles, the pristine dining table, stood in stark, mocking contrast to the devastating scene that lay before him. The Cliff House, usually a beacon of warmth and familial love, felt cold, violated, and saturated with an undeniable sense of dread. The rhythmic crashing of the waves outside was drowned out by the sudden, deafening pounding of his own heart as his eyes adjusted to the dim lighting of the living room. There, in the very center of the meticulously decorated living room, lay Steffy. She was entirely motionless, a hauntingly still figure sprawled across the hardwood floor. But it was the dark, expanding pool of crimson surrounding her that sent a visceral shockwave of pure terror through Finn's entire being. The blood was a stark, horrifying violation of their home, a gruesome testament to a sudden and brutal act of violence. Finn's medical instincts, usually so sharp and clinical, waged a desperate war against the paralyzing agony of a terrified husband. He dropped his briefcase, the thud echoing in the cavernous room, and sprinted to her side, his hands trembling as he reached out to assess the catastrophic damage, his voice breaking as he screamed her name into the empty house. As Finn fell to his knees, his hands desperately searching for a pulse, his eyes caught sight of a chilling detail that added a layer of profound psychological horror to the physical trauma. Clutched tightly in Steffy's pale, lifeless hand was a crumpled piece of paper. It was not just any paper. It was a highly detailed design sketch belonging to the recently paused hope for the future fashion line. The pencil strokes, usually representing creativity and philanthropic vision, were now smeared with Steffy's blood. The sketch was a damning symbol of the intense, vitriolic corporate warfare that had consumed Steffy and Hope Logan over the past several weeks. It was a physical manifestation of the exact conflict that had pushed the two women to the absolute brink of sanity, now serving as a macabre centerpiece in a potential murder scene. But the sketch was only the first piece of a terrifying puzzle. As Finn's frantic gaze swept the immediate vicinity of his bleeding wife, the true, agonizing pain of betrayal washed over him. Lying just inches away from the pool of blood was a piece of fabric that was instantly recognizable to anyone within the elite circles of Los Angeles fashion. It was a delicate, intricately patterned silk scarf, the undeniable signature accessory of Hope Logan. The scarf, known for its soft hues and ethical sourcing, was now a sinister artifact left behind in the wake of unspeakable violence. The juxtaposition of Hope's delicate scarf against the brutal reality of Steffy's battered body created a horrific narrative that Finn's mind desperately tried to reject, yet could not ignore. The implications of the silk scarf were catastrophic. This was not a random home invasion or a burglary gone wrong. The presence of the Hope for the Future sketch and the signature silk scarf painted a terrifyingly specific picture of a deeply personal, targeted attack. Finn's mind reeled with the agonizing realization that the bitter rivalry between his wife and Hope Logan had escalated from boardroom, shouting matches to physical bloodshed. The scarf was a screaming beacon, pointing a direct and undeniable finger at the woman who had just suffered the most humiliating and devastating professional defeat of her life at Steffy's hands. Within minutes, the tranquil isolation of the Cliff House was shattered by the wailing sirens of emergency vehicles. The flashing red and blue lights cut through the gloomy coastal night, casting frantic, erratic shadows across the walls of the home. Paramedics rushed in, their clinical efficiency a stark contrast to Finn's shattered emotional state, while police officers immediately began securing the perimeter. The yellow crime scene tape went up, transforming a place of love and family into a cold, clinical site of investigation. As Finn was gently but firmly pulled away from his wife to allow the medics to work, the reality of the situation crashed down upon him with the weight of a collapsing building. The authorities immediately locked down the house, and the investigation pivoted with lightning speed toward the most obvious, glaring suspect, Hope Logan. To understand how Hope became the prime suspect in this brutal attack, one must look at the devastating psychological deterioration she had endured over the preceding days. Hope was a woman who had been pushed past her absolute breaking point. For weeks, she had endured Steffy's condescending leadership, watching helplessly as her beloved Hope for the Future line was marginalized and ultimately paused to prioritize Eric Forster's couture. Steffy had wielded her co-CEO power not just as a business tool, but as a weapon to humiliate and diminish Hope's legacy. The psychological toll on Hope had been immense, but the true catalyst for a potential psychotic break was the profound betrayal she suffered at the hands of her own mother. Brooke Logan Forster had initially championed Hope's cause, launching a hostile takeover attempt for Steffy's co-CEO seat. Hope had placed all her faith, all her desperate ambition, into this corporate coup. But when Ridge Forster firmly chose to keep Steffy in power, Brooke did the unthinkable. She abandoned the crusade, slept with Ridge, and sent Steffy a highly diplomatic text praising her leadership. Brooke had prioritized her romantic security over her daughter's career, leaving Hope entirely isolated, deeply betrayed, and emotionally shattered. In the immediate aftermath of Brooke's hypocrisy, Hope had fled to the Logan fashion house, pouring her heart out to Katie Logan Spencer. But even there, she found hesitation. Katie, grappling with her own internal moral crisis regarding her motives, paused any official hiring deal. Hope was left adrift, a woman without a company, without a supportive mother, and without a future. The final, explosive confrontation had occurred just hours before the attack, when Hope stormed into the CEO office, demanding definitive answers from Steffy about her future. Steffy had arrogantly refused to yield, pushing Hope's career to the absolute brink and effectively destroying the last shred of Hope's professional dignity. Given this volatile timeline, the police have every reason to view Hope Logan not just as a person of interest, but as the prime suspect in an attempted murder. The motive is glaringly obvious: a desperate, broken woman seeking ultimate revenge against a rival who stripped her of her life's work. The means and opportunity seem to align perfectly with the timeline of Hope's explosive exit from Forster Creations. The presence of the sketch and the signature scarf of the crime scene are not just circumstantial evidence. They are a psychological signature of a woman who had completely snapped under the weight of unrelenting corporate and personal abuse. Yet, in the twisted, labyrinthine world of Los Angeles fashion dynasties, the most obvious answer is rarely the complete truth. While the evidence against Hope Logan is damning, one must ask if this is a spontaneous crime of passion or an incredibly elaborate, meticulously orchestrated revenge plot designed to destroy the Logan family's biggest rival, while simultaneously framing their golden child. The presence of the scarf and the sketch almost seems too perfect, too neatly arranged to point the finger at Hope. If Hope had truly snapped in a fit of uncontrollable rage, would she have left her signature accessory behind? Or is the scarf a planted piece of evidence, a theatrical prop designed to manipulate the narrative? The list of individuals who might benefit from framing Hope and eliminating Steffy is short but incredibly dangerous. One cannot ignore the lurking, silent presence of Sheila Carter. Sheila has been maintaining a terrifying, week-long silence, meticulously crafting a devastating plot to win Deacon Sharp back from Taylor Hayes. Could eliminating Taylor's daughter, Steffy, and framing Brooke's daughter, Hope, be the ultimate, chaotic masterstroke to destroy both of her enemies' families in one fell swoop? Sheila's capacity for violence and her talent for elaborate frame-ups are legendary, making her a phantom suspect in any crime of this magnitude. Furthermore, the broader corporate war between the Logan brand and Forrester Creations provides a chilling backdrop to this violence. Bill Spencer and Katie Logan have been preparing for a massive fashion event, heavily relying on Eric Forster's designs. The threat of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit from Forrester Creations loomed large. With Steffy incapacitated and Hope facing decades in prison, the entire power structure of the Los Angeles fashion world would be thrown into unprecedented chaos. Could a ruthless corporate entity or a hidden enemy be using the intense rivalry between Steffy and Hope as a smokescreen for a much darker agenda? As Finn stands outside the Cliff House, the flashing police lights illuminating the tears streaming down his face, the gravity of the situation is undeniable. The war between the Logans and the Forresters, a conflict fought for decades with fabrics, press releases, and boardroom votes, has finally crossed the ultimate, unforgivable line into physical bloodshed. The image of Steffy lying in that pool of blood, gripping the symbol of Hope's shattered dreams, will forever haunt him. The signature silk scarf, a piece of fabric meant to represent ethical fashion, is now the central piece of evidence in a tragedy that will tear two families apart. The coming days will be a harrowing journey through the darkest corners of the human psyche. The police will interrogate Hope Logan, tearing apart her alibi and examining her fragile mental state. Brooke Logan will be forced to confront the horrifying possibility that her betrayal pushed her daughter to commit a monstrous act. Ridge Forrester will be torn between his agonizing grief for his daughter and his complicated loyalty to the Logans. And Finn, the devoted healer, will be left to navigate a nightmare where his medical skills were not enough to protect the woman he loves from the toxic legacy of her own family. The psychological devastation rippling through the city will be unprecedented. Taylor Hayes, having just returned to the canvas with a clear-eyed view of the toxic dynamics at play, will undoubtedly unleash a maternal fury unlike anything the Logans have ever faced. Her protective instincts over Steffy will transform into a relentless crusade for justice, demanding that Hope face the maximum penalty if proven guilty. Meanwhile, Liam Spencer, who had been fiercely advocating for Hope to leave Forrester and join the Logan brand, will find himself trapped in a nightmare, questioning every interaction he had with his former wife leading up to the attack. Did he miss the signs of her impending break? Did his encouragement to fight back inadvertently fuel a homicidal rage? As the stormy night gives way to a bleak, unforgiving morning, the Cliff House remains a fortress of yellow tape and forensic scrutiny. The sketch of the Hope for the Future gown has been carefully bagged as evidence, the bloodstains telling a story that words cannot. The silk scarf has been cataloged, its delicate threads carrying the heavy burden of suspicion. The fashion industry, usually obsessed with hemlines and seasonal palettes, is now consumed by a true crime saga that rivals any cinematic thriller. The ultimate question hangs heavy in the salt-tinged air. Has the relentless pursuit of legacy, power, and respect finally demanded a blood sacrifice? Or is there a puppet master pulling the strings from the darkest shadows of Los Angeles? Only time will reveal the